Welcome to SFGAM studio. So we're continuing our conversation with PatColon. 2009 is a very special year for Pat for two reasons. Pat told me that he has been in San Francisco for 44 years by this October. And it is also his Pilsner Inn's 29th anniversary. So I think those two are great milestones, right, Pat?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So what attracted you to San Francisco? Or was that not a choice?
It was a choice, but not really a choice. I had requested a transfer back to the States, and I could only request a transfer to Region 9.
Region 9.
Which is California, Arizona, Nevada, and one other state, I think.
And then you, at that time, you were working for the Department of Defense.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they transferred me to San Francisco. And at first I thought, oh, I don't want to go there. But then I got here, because people had told me it was cold and foggy and all this. And I got here, and I was very happy here. I liked it here.
You left your heart here.
Yes, I left my heart, and it stays here. Yeah.
So what was the Department of Defense like?
Department of Defense was very strict, and when I transferred, the personnel office unfortunately canceled my clearance. I had a top secret cosmic clearance, and they transferred.
Cosmic.
Cosmic.
So you can go in the universe and you'll be cleared.
Right.
Because U.S. was very powerful then.
Exactly.
I see.
So anyway, so they canceled that when I was transferred, and they weren't supposed to have. So since it was canceled and I was transferred to the Presidio, then I had to have a new clearance. So then they had to reinvestigate me. So the CIA and the Navy intelligence started investigating and reviewing all my mail, censoring my mail that I was receiving, tapping my telephone, and all these things.
Did they have the right to do that?
They had the right to do it because I was a federal employee, and they have the right to check everything out for me to be reissued a new clearance.
I see.
So that went on for a long time. So that meant I couldn't do anything. I had to be extremely careful of what I did, what I said.
You knew that was happening.
I knew it was happening, and I knew my phone was bugged because of things that were said. So I was very careful with whom I spoke on the phone. My letters were censored from Europe that I received. I corresponded with a nun, for example, from Egypt, and they called me in and interviewed me with tapes and stuff with things on, so I couldn't, was telling the truth and all this. And the nun, I said, well, she's a nun. Well, why are you corresponding? She said, Egyptian, she must be communist. And I said, no, she's not communist. Well, why do you correspond with her? I said, well, because I met her and we're friends, and she's a teacher, and she wants children's clothes and
so
stuff.
This is what period of time?
This is the end of 65 and 66 all the way through 67.
Who was the president then of the United States? The
president was it Johnson? I don't even remember.
I see.
Unfortunately.
So it must be a very difficult period.
Yeah, it was a very difficult period.
Witch hunts and a lot of witch hunts.
A lot of witch hunts. Okay. And they did this, and then they said, well, you went to Egypt on vacation, and you went to this house where this man lives who is a gay man. And I said, well, I don't know about that. All I know is I was recommended to go there because it's the oldest house in Cairo.
I see.
And so, anyway, they kept on, and these questions went on, and every 2 weeks they'd call me in for more testing. And finally I said to my boss, this has got to stop. I just can't go on after almost 2 years. So my boss called him and he said, either give him his clearance or refuse it. Make up your mind. And so then they stopped, and that was it.
You have a sense that they were also following you?
Yes, I had a sense they were following me. And so when I would go out,
so is it pretty much like the movies where they were wearing trench coats and
perhaps, yeah.
Looking around in the corner?
Probably. Exactly. I didn't ever see them to know, but I would go and I would park somewhere, and if I wanted to go to a gay bar, because I thought, well, now I'm still dating this girl, but I'm still going out once in a while to look, just to see what's going on in San Francisco. And so I would park the car and walk a couple of blocks and go around and come back and do different things. And then finally, if there were people walking, then I'd walk and then I'd just dash into a place.
I see. So where were the gay bars then?
There was one on Market Street actually called the Missouri Mule. And it was a place on Sunday afternoon where a lot of people went in. There was a lady played the piano there and everybody had a good time singing and hollering and stuff. And what other places were there? Toad Hall was on Castro Street. And then there was one downtown where they used to have a female impersonator on a swing, and she did San Francisco and all this stuff.
Show tunes.
Show tunes and stuff. It was very fun. And I used to go there and, you know, I never participated in anything, but I would go there and watch and see what happened.
So how did the gay San Francisco compare to gay Paris?
Well, it was probably just as much or about as much at that point, but I didn't participate as much.
In gay Paris.
Right.
Yeah, but in San Francisco you're about to experience the...
Yeah, I experienced it, but I couldn't do anything because I was afraid, you know. And then I was still, like I said, I was still dating and going to parties with women at the base, you know, and stuff like that. And so that went on until 1971.
1971.
And then the Department of Defense decided that you could be gay as long as you did your job.
How was that communicated?
It was communicated through a circular, I think, from the government, federal government. And they said you couldn't fire somebody for being gay.
I see. Were you elated?
I was elated, yes, because then I felt comfortable. I could be myself. Whether I wanted to do anything or not is another matter.
So who do you think fought for that? Fought for the exclusion?
Whether it was, I don't know who it was. Must have been somebody in Congress, I would assume, but I don't know, or somebody who was a what do you call them? Lobbyist. A lobbyist who was lobbying Congress to do it.
I see.
Because it was very ancient.
I see.
Yeah.
So had the country had just sort of come out from the McCarthy era.
Yes.
So that's this sort of a social justice that's going on.
Yes.
And then that actually benefited you.
Yeah, it did, because it made a lot of people a lot of people free, because you knew you were doing a good job. I was getting outstanding performance every year, so obviously they couldn't fire me if I did go to a gay bar, whether I did anything or not. They couldn't say you're guilty by association, because even if they did, they said, well, I've got outstanding awards every year since I've been here, and that's from 65 to 71, so how could they all of a sudden say I wasn't performing well? So then it left me feeling a lot more comfortable.
How does this impact your gay life?
It probably allowed me to think about what I really wanted to do. Now maybe, you know, if I'm leaning that way, maybe now's the time to say, well, I'm comfortable with it and I can accept the fact that I probably am gay. Because these years now, the dating was a necessity, and part of it was fun, part of it wasn't. And now I feel, well, maybe I don't have to do that anymore.
Were there any affirmations?
Well, affirmations, but
I'm gay. I'm proud. I'm coming out.
no, not at that time.
Not at that time.
No, there really wasn't. I was still, because I had never come out to my family at all, except my youngest sister, who knew. My mother came every winter and spent the winter here because she hated the weather in Minnesota, where they had moved, and so. Obviously, she probably knew, but she never asked.
But you were very close to your family.
But I was very close to my family and my mother. We spent Angelo, my business partner, well, Pat at the time was my business partner initially, and then Angelo, and they both knew my mother, and they came, we played cards together, played bridge and different card games and dinners and stuff together all the time, but my mother treated everybody exactly the same. All my friends she loved, and no questions were ever asked.
Good.
So it was really nice.
Yeah. So at that time you were a partner, right? You had a boyfriend.
No, I didn't.
You didn't have a boyfriend.
No, I didn't have a boyfriend. I had very close friends. Patrick, my first business partner, was very, very close, but we weren't lovers. But we were very close friends, and we remained very close until his death. In fact, I took care of him when he died in '87. Helped take care of him, and then Angelo was my new partner in '89. And we were very close also. I know a lot of his family. He knows a lot of mine. And then, unfortunately, he died last year. and I took care of him for the last 3 months.